All right, I think we're underway. It's a good week to be alive. Good to see a few Port supporters still logged on, regardless of the fact that you knew I was going to mention the showdown. But it's been a while since the Crows have been able to win one, so we'll enjoy it while it lasts. All right, so I haven't got too much for you. We want to run through a bit of the interpretations video. But before we get to that, we've only got just over 2 weeks for the round one to start. So as I continually do, just reminding everyone, if you are unavailable at all, make sure you put in leave into Officials HQ. Pete and I are starting work on the appointments already, and I know Ray, Neil in the boundary, and Bruce with the goals will be doing the same. No need to explain why you are unavailable. All we need to know is why you can't, whether you can umpire or not. And so put in leave if you can't umpire. Obviously, you can do that for the full day or part of the day. If you do have a special request for a location where you want to umpire, that's where you would email me. But we always try our best to get you close-ish to home. So you don't need to necessarily request that, but sometimes there's a need for a specific location. Just put that in the email. So AdFL gather rounds on in a couple of weeks, from Thursday, April the 13th to Sunday, April the 16th. As I've mentioned before, the league won't be appointing umpires on that weekend, but if you do get approached by a club, and there will be some clubs that organise trial games, and if you have a connection with one of those clubs and they ask you to umpire, that's up to you whether you umpire or not. I don't need to know about it, and you can umpire, but just the league won't be officially appointing umpires on those days. We've got a couple of trial games on the Wednesday night which we'll organise, but I think most of the trial games have already been done, and most clubs are having a couple of weeks off before round one. So we've got the Inclusive League happening again this year. Starts in about a month's time, I believe. We'll be putting together a panel. So if you're keen, and we had about 10 or 12 umpires do it last year, we're going to do the same thing this year, where we just have a panel. If you want to be involved in the Inclusive League, just send me an email to tell me that you're interested. Games will be at 4:45 on the Saturdays, so they'll be programmed usually after the A grade of a men's game. And so, yeah, if you're keen to put yourself down to be on that panel, we need a few down south because of Christie's Beach being involved and Kenilworth. But then we also have some northern clubs. Eastern Park aren't having a inclusive team this year, but I think Athelston are. So there's a couple of changes there. But if you're keen to get involved in that panel, I just need to hear from you, because we'll only appoint umpires from that panel. Just a quick note about contacting me. So just, I guess, if you have a non-urgent need for me to address something, it's just in most cases, it's probably best just to send me an email. I guess, yeah, there are things that you might think of after hours, and rather than messaging me or calling me when I might be with my family or doing other things, just send me an email so I can address it at work. On the other hand, if it is a bit of an urgent need and it's something like you become unavailable at the last minute, so Friday night or Saturday morning, I had someone email me last Friday night, and it was just lucky that I did actually log on to the emails that I saw it. But usually when I go home, I just log off from my email, so I don't really see it. So that's where you would want to call me and make sure I get the message, rather than rely on an email or a text. Just a reminder about next weekend being Easter, obviously, so we won't have a Zoom meeting on Monday night. You want to visit the Sports Centre in the next couple of weeks and get your new shed if you haven't already, because they're in. We need all umpires to have the new shirt with the CMAX logo on the front before round 1. And a reminder that we want everyone being really familiar with the interpretations video. So I know some of the first year umpires look at it more than once, pretty regularly, which is I really recommend you do that, just to get in your head exactly what we're looking for. But all umpires should be viewing that video at least once, and it won't hurt to look at it another time leading up to round 1. And for those on the Zoom tonight or watching on, we're going to have a look at it anyway, part of it anyway, for our coaching session tonight. Okay, so before we get on to the interpretations video, has anyone got anything that's cropped up from the weekend that they want to bring up, that they might want to raise from either a trial game they umpired or something from the AFL? There was a couple of interesting examples of what happened in the AFL on the weekend. I'm happy to discuss those now if you want to.
Yeah, Cole, why don't we discuss the Palpepper inside 5 meters and the interpretation of that one?
Yeah, it's a good one. And Bo Girdham and I had a bit of a social media conversation on that. But my take on it was I thought the umpire got it right. Because it was Lockie Show, I think it was, that had the ball, took the mark. He definitely went to play on immediately, so he moved sideways. So a good umpire sees the sideways movement, or the movement to play on, and calls play on immediately. And the moment the play on call is made, the protected zone disappears. So because he immediately played on, he's entitled to be tackled. It's a fine line though, because if he hadn't immediately played on and the player had loitered in the area and then he plays on and he's tackled, then it's 50, or in our case 25. So if there's a delay in him playing on, or he doesn't play on, and the player doesn't make the effort to leave the protected zone, then you penalise the player that's there. But because in that case Lockie Scholl essentially moved sideways and play on was the right call, therefore the protected zone disappears. And if you, as we'll go through in a minute with our video, if you choose to play on from a mark or free kick, that is your prior opportunity. So the fact that he didn't have much of a prior opportunity, the fact he chose to play on, the right decision was holding the ball. Does that all make sense? You all good with that, Brendan?
Yep, no problem.
Yep. That's coming from a Crow supporter. So plenty of Crow supporters that didn't like it. But I thought Curtis, who's a South Australian AFL umpire, got that one spot on, and a really interesting one. But it wouldn't take much for that to be a totally different scenario. You don't want players loitering in that protected zone, ready to tackle. So if there's not an immediate play on call when they're loitering, and then they go tackle, then it's a penalty. All right. Anything else from the weekend anyone wants to discuss?
Yeah, Cole, from the weekend, you touched on it at the coaches' interpretation meeting, but the benches, I was sending you a text, but I'm not sure if you saw it because it was only a couple of minutes ago, around players and coaches and support staff standing on the field.
Yep. So we want you guys to monitor this as best you can. I know that you're focusing on the game on the field, but if you notice the coaches and the interchange players standing up and creeping towards the boundary line, at the next stoppage in play, you need to ask them to move back into the coach's box. Standing up, getting in the way of the boundary umpires, tends to also lead to a bit more aggression towards umpires when they're not happy with things, or it can upset the opposition players. So really the coach's box is there for a reason, and that's where we want the coaches and the interchange players. If you could be mindful of that during the year, that would be appreciated. I'll see whether I can get some footage during the year of the A couple of the grand finals where it was really obvious the coaching staff and the in-change players were way too close to the boundary line. Anyone else? All right, when round one starts, I'm sure there'll be a few more questions as you go, but feel free to ask any questions from AFL games or anything else that pops up along the way, and we can all get clarification. If I don't know the answer, then I'll go away and get the right answer for you. All right, let's get on to having a look at the interpretations video. There's the two parts I want to have a look at. Let's have a look at just a thumbs up. Can you see that? Can you see the video? Yeah, cool. So we're going to have a look at the section on dangerous tackles. Just a reminder, really. It was such a big issue last year. It started out a big issue for the AFL this year, and we need to be vigilant. That's a bad word. We need to be mindful of it. When the season starts. We actually had a couple of red cards last Saturday in the trial games for dangerous tackles, one in the men's game, one in the women's game. And it was good to see the umpires take action. It's such a big issue in footy at the moment. So there's different levels of dangerous tackles. That's the difficulty in working out what's the best action, but we just need to take action. So just working through the video, tackler has a duty of care to take the player to ground without slinging, lifting or dumping. I mean, the best advice for players is if they don't have to take them to ground, then they shouldn't. And I guess for those that were watching the showdown, there was a red card on, or not a red card, a report on Luke Pedler, who received a week, and did discussion around that. I thought it was a clear-cut dangerous tackle. Just took him to ground with far too much force, and the potential to cause injury was there. So that's why he received the 1 match suspension. But if there's something about the tackle that concerns you while you're umpiring, but it's not over the top, I mean, just a free kick will get the message across that they've got to be careful. There will be times where someone's taken to ground and they show the duty of care, and you're not paying a free kick. But if there's a slinging action or lifting action or a dumping action, at least pay a free kick. So some examples here of just a free kick being paid. And then we'll get to some examples where the cards were used.
Short turns it over though. Jack Whiteman's there. Can't hang on to the mark. Well tackled.
So there was just that little sling action in the end. It wasn't over the top aggressive, but there was that sling and really good free kick paid. With this one here, the umpire calls for a ball up, and then after that sees the sling into the ground. Again, a really good free kick that was paid. So here's some more dangerous ones where cards were used last year. So slinging motion here, a really aggressive sling into the ground. And the card really sets the scene and gets a message to players. This one here, I think the player was quite hurt with this one.
Just tackle, lets it go ahead, bounces on the ground. Yeah, it was a little bit of a.
Or even if he wasn't hurt, actually didn't look like he was hurt. The one that coming up gets hurt. It doesn't matter whether they get hurt or not. It's that action. So a reminder that we do allow you to give a yellow card and ask for an upgrade if in reflection, if you think it probably should have been a red, you gave a yellow. We don't do that for other reports. So other yellow cards you give, you can't ask to be upgraded. That's where the clubs will have to ask for an investigation. And so we really want you to be firm on the red cards if you see a striking or if you see other reportable instances. But in the case of dangerous tackles, they can be hard to assess at the time. So if you do give a yellow, then you can give me a call and ask for it to be upgraded if there's a need. So I think with that one before, with the Goodwood and St. Peter's one, it was a yellow that was upgraded to a red from memory. This one was given a red at the time. So the change from last year, where we were pretty much giving all yellows last year, but we needed a stronger message for these type of dangerous tackles. So this is where Stefan gave a red card, and it was that really aggressive tackle, and you could see it, the player was feeling it. He did get up, but there was potential to cause injury. So if you feel that it's a serious one that needs further action, then issue the red card straight away. That's it for the dangerous tackles. That's just a reminder. Any questions or comments on dangerous tackles? All right. It seems like everyone's got a much better grasp on dangerous tackles these days compared to where we were a while back, where, you know, it was sort of seeing a lot of those tackles were just footy, and it's, you know, just a good hard tackle. I think people, you know, certainly with what the AdFL are doing, there's a lot greater understanding now of the need to police and penalise dangerous tackles. All right, so let's get on to hold the ball. Surprise, surprise. The hardest rule to get right, and we're not going to always get it right, but I guess let's work through a few of these examples so that you get right more than you don't. There's plenty of reasons why to pay hold in the ball, and we've changed our philosophy from erring on the side of the ball player and balling it up or calling play on to now erring on the side of playing hold in the ball. If it's 50-50 and you're not sure which way to go, playing hold in the ball is the right way to go. We keep the play moving, and yeah, we have that many reasons why you can pay a hold in the ball. There are obviously reasons why you don't, but let's have a look through the reasons why you do. So continually, it's a lot about whether they've had a prior opportunity or not. And if they have had a prior opportunity, they have to immediately handle or kick, otherwise they will get penalised. One of the key outcomes from this, our interpretation of the rule, is to encourage players to keep their feet, because certainly once they go to ground, they're more likely to get penalised. And they need to show that they're trying to kick or handball when tackled. So that, you know, that's the message to the players and the coaches is how do you avoid getting penalised so much for holding the ball if they're getting penalised a lot. Well, have it in your mind, keep your feet where you can. And if you are getting tackled, show us you're trying to kick or handball it. And if you're on the ground, that's where we want the player to knock it clear instead of take possession. If you're taking possession, you're going to be much more likely to get hold of the ball. So let's have a look at some of the reasons why you consider it being a prior opportunity. So simply has had a chance to handle or kick beforehand. Might not have had a chance to kick, but if you had a chance to handle, that one was quite clearly, it ran through. Could have easily had a chance to handle or kick before that. With this one here, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to kick, but certainly a chance to handball. And she started to run away from the pack. So that's where these days we're looking for that to be a hole in the ball.
Fantastic tackle applied.
So, by the way, anyone wants to ask any questions, just unmute yourself and ask away. Next example of prior opportunities where you choose to fend off instead of dispose of the ball. So if you put your hands out and try and, I guess, brush off the tackler, like in this case here, puts the hand out instead of actually trying to first handball. So we're talking about the example on the weekend with Shoal. Then he chose to play on from his mark or free kick, whatever it was. That's where he's had the prior opportunity. In this case here, mark's taken, plays on immediately. Unluckily he slipped, but the decision to play on is his prior opportunity. So these ones here, these are the ones that talked about at our session earlier on in the year, where I think we can be a bit tougher on. If a player, and they really, if it's diving on the ball, dragging the ball in, or just being on the ground and taking possession, to me, they all fall under the same category. And that's where if you see a player that's caused the ball up by being on the ground and doing any of those things, then that's where we want you to pay holding the ball. So in this case here, diving on the ball, pretty obvious one, this one, a huge dive. This is as big a dive as you get. So that's a clear free kick. Dragging the ball in. You see the ball, pulls it back underneath him. So those two ones are what AFL would pay every time. The next one wouldn't necessarily be a free kick at AFL level, but for keeping it simple and getting the message out that, you know, we just don't want you to take possession while on the ground. If you see any player that's already on the ground and instead of tapping it clear, takes possession, that's where didn't make an attempt to push it out, just put it underneath him. In both these examples, they're good free kicks for holding the ball. And these days you can see players asking for it. They're used to the way we umpire. So there's some prior opportunity examples. Any questions on any of those prior opportunities? Maybe you guys are.
Cole?
Yep.
On the weekend in the Athelston game, one of the guys from Athelston went to ground and literally just lay there, put his arms out like Tom Cruise in the Mission Impossible sort of bit where he's coming down. And I penalised him for just laying on the ball.
Yep.
He made no effort to pick it up or get it out. So his argument was that he wasn't in possession. And I said, well, once you go to ground, you've got to actually make that effort to get it out.
Yep.
And so he was happy with the sort of thing. And then quarter time, I said to him, have a look at the video that's out there for the clubs. But he hadn't seen that. So I'm just thinking that it might be a good idea to re-push that out to club level to make sure they're getting to see the video like we are.
So it's been in John Kernahan's update. I email all the coaches. I've got all their email addresses with all the coaching notes. And we had a coaches meeting a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know whether I can do much more. And look, the same comment is made every year. So if clubs want to be smart and tell their players, then they will, but there'll always be some that won't watch it. So, you know, use the opportunity to educate, and by all means do what you did. Tell them to have a look at the video. But yeah, just be aware that the efforts have been made to spread the word.
Yeah, I thought as much.
Yeah. But yeah, that example there where they put their hands out and pretending or saying they're not in possession, well, they're lying over it. They are in possession and they're not making a genuine attempt. So the next point is, even if there's no opportunity, the player must make a genuine attempt to dispose of the ball, or you can be penalised for holding the ball. So yeah, it sounds like you paid exactly the right free kick.
Cool.
Joel?
Yeah.
Reflecting on the decision you and I spoke about on Saturday, I had a similar one in the other game that I did, where player is being tackled more or less loosely, and they maybe have his jumper held, pretty much breaks through that tackle, and then is presented with a second tackler. Now, isn't that the point where he must dispose of the ball immediately? Because I know the one we spoke about was, I don't dispute what you said, but the second one, the guy actually raised his hands up and he did handball, but it was during the second tackle. So that it wasn't.
Well, if he's immediately tackled, it's play on. So is immediately handballed while being tackled?
No, well, he didn't. So he'd broken it.
So I guess, without
spun around, broke that tackle, got tackled again, and he then lifted his arms to handball it. But
so did you give him a chance when he's lifted his hands to get the handball out to actually get the handball?
What I actually paid was that I don't believe he handballed correctly, which...
Oh, that's your answer. If he hasn't handballed it, then it's holding the ball. I mean, for those, everyone else doesn't know the conversation we had, but essentially I said to you, and we'll get onto that in a minute, but just make sure that there's an actual tackle before you penalise the holding the ball. We might have all these prior opportunities that you see, whether it's a fend off, whether it's had a chance to handball or kick, and then you're ready to pay a hole in the ball. But if the tackle doesn't stick, or in the case of one coming up that where it's called play on because there's a bump instead of a tackle, you just got to make sure that it's an actual tackle. So it's just making sure that every step is ticked off before you pay it. It's a bloody hard rule. We all love the rule because it's a big part of the game. But yeah, just I guess with often what I say is for in the back, high tackles, your bread and butter free kicks, blow the whistle the moment you see it. But I reckon for marking interferences for hole in the ball, it doesn't hurt to just hold the whistle a bit. And with the marks, make sure they actually hold the mark. With the hole in the balls, make sure that there's a proper tackle. There's not a dangerous tackle. That they haven't got a handball or kick away. So just delaying your whistle with the hole in the ball can help in a lot of cases. All right, let's keep it moving. So this one here, it's no prior opportunity, but he just sits on it. He makes no attempt. Willow gives him a chance, and he's just not showing any attempt. With this one here, you see a bit of this. So that's where it's a good tackle. He's got hold of one arm, the other arm is free. So he's just got to make an attempt there. There's no prior opportunity. It's tucked underneath the arm. If he just holds onto it and does nothing, that's where you pay holding the ball. But if it spills loose and he's trying to handball, trying to kick, then it can be play on, but it is pretty difficult in that situation for a player. All right, so if a player just drops it or throws the ball, that's where holding the ball occurs. So there, he just puts it on the ground. So good decision to penalise. So here's some times where you don't pay holding the ball. Lots of reasons to it, pay it. But when there's no prior opportunity and the ball is held in or spills loose while the player makes a genuine attempt to kick or handball. In this case here, you've got 3 examples. No prior, gets a handball away. No prior, makes an attempt to handball. No prior, ball's held in. It's a really good umpiring there from Dennis. So this is the one where there's a bump rather than a tackle. There's every reason why there's a prior opportunity, but he just bumps him. He doesn't tackle him. When the ball is on the ground and both players from both sides have their hands on the ball, too many hands on this ball to make anyone responsible for that being a ball up. So in that case there, the right decision is just to ball it up. If the tackler pulls the ball into the other player, there's another reason to ball it up. So the tackler is the one that pulls that in. When there's a player that gets to his or her feet immediately after taking possession of the ball, that's where you call play on and usually ball it up if it doesn't come out. At least they get to their feet where it's more likely they're going to be able to get out. So they're the holding the balls. Just want a reminder of where we sit with all that. If you're still, are new and you want to get your head exactly how you do it, just watch that over and over. I think it covers all the different scenarios pretty well. All right, any questions or comments on that? We've got 3.5 minutes left before we wind up. Anything else anyone wants to mention?
Yeah, Colin, I think just a bit of a sort of update for you. I think the last disposal out of bounds rule is having a really good impact so far in the trial games that I've seen. So
yeah, it's a good rule, and people will get used to it. The fact that we've had it in our B and C grade, men's and women's, for a while now, means that we're pretty well accepting the A grade. But yeah, I agree, it's a great rule, and I love your jumper, mate. Well done. I thought about wearing it, but I don't know why I didn't.
Got to take it for all it's worth these days.
No, that's right. We'll get it back when the other team wins down the track.
Cole, can I just add into Bo? It was an absolute pleasure running with him on Saturday, and more importantly, congratulations on becoming a father, mate.
100%. Thanks for the reminder. Right, and good to have you back. But yes, Bo, congratulations on the birth of your little one. Fantastic photos.
It's been awesome. Thanks, Cole. Thanks, Ray. Mike.
Good to have a couple of weeks off, actually. That works in well for you.
A couple of weeks and then 4 weeks off with work. So, yeah, 100%.
Nice. No, very good. Excellent. Exciting times.
Colin, how are you dealing with your new media personalities?
Yeah, there'll be a few that realised my boys were front and centre of the TV screen carrying on. I'm glad I wasn't sitting alongside them. Yeah, they enjoyed themselves. It's certainly beats a few showdowns in the past where the Crows haven't won and I've had to deal with the other end of it. That wasn't pretty at times, but yeah, no, they had a good night. All right, I think that brings us to the end, unless there's anyone else. Dave, you just unmuted yourself. Is there anything you want to say? No, Dave Palmer? No, all good. All right, go on, you guys. Good to have you all back with the Zooms. I'll have some new coaching videos for our next sessions, which will be good. Enjoy next weekend off and get ready to go in a couple of weeks. It's all going to happen pretty soon. We'll see you at training Wednesday night.